Welcome, everyone. My name is Brad from Unios, and welcome to the first episode of Unios Insights Live. Now, the reason behind doing this new series, we're going to be doing it every month, is to kind of give a little bit of insight on some lighting education, just lighting in general, some product, and a bit of a glimpse into kind of our experience centres throughout Australia and over in Southeast Asia. So another great opportunity in this short 30-minute series is to actually ask a heap of questions. So if you want to chuck some comments into whichever platform, whether it's Instagram or LinkedIn or YouTube, and we can grab those comments and we can actually go through the last 15 minutes and answer some questions. If you cannot catch the whole video, don't be worried. You can always jump onto YouTube and it'll be there uploaded within the next couple of days at Unios Light. So why are we here today? We're going to cover an educational topic. You will see some product in it and you will get a little bit of a tour in the building. So as the first episode, we're going to kind of hit all three. We're going to talk about glare. Okay, glare is probably the thing that I'm most passionate about with trying to reduce in all built environments, right? You know, we've all experienced it in the past, okay? Whether we've gone outside on a really overcast day and just thought, where are my sunglasses, you know? It can almost be brighter than a sunny day. Or whether it's sitting at our desk and, you know, we've got maybe some poor lighting, maybe panel lights or old fluorescents, and we're just always catching our eye, causing distraction, making us really, really tired by the end of the day as well. So we're going to go through some product. I want to do a little bit of comparison here. And we're going to start with a dark lighter, and then we're going to switch to kind of the other spectrum of what would be happening there. So the first one I'm going to go on to is these three lights up here. So you might not be able to see them on the ceiling, and that is the whole point of a dark lighter, but we can see that they are actually putting out some output onto this vertical surface. So what's so special about a dark lighter? Okay, so a dark lighter kind of removes the LED chip actually into the ceiling, into the fitting itself. So we're taking away the light source from the ceiling surface. What else we're doing? We're putting a reflector or a lens around it that's guiding the light out of the fitting so it doesn't catch on the fascia, which is kind of what we can see from underneath. The third part to a dark lighter, which is really important, is to have a dark color as the fascia. All right, so we want to make sure it's black or a dark gray or something like that. So it absorbs light rather than reflecting it back into our eyes. That's kind of a brief explanation of a dark lighter. We'll talk a little bit more about what ratings we give these lights and stuff in a sec. But we're going to go to the other end of the spectrum now. A light fitting that probably most people on this webinar have experienced at one point in their life. It is a frosted face downlight. It also comes pretty regularly in like a panel light, for instance. It's that opal diffused light, and it's kind of the other end of the spectrum for this one. So I'm going to turn it on now. Hopefully you can see it on your camera, this one right here. Now I've still got the node on in the background actually, the dark lighter version. Now this is pretty hard to escape, right? Everywhere I look around in the space, I can see what's happening with that light. It's getting into my eye, it's causing me to squint, and all those kinds of things that will start happening, which I'll explain in a sec. So why is this one so much worse? So we've still got the LED chips that are mounted away from the ceiling surface, but what we've done is we've added that layer of cloud in, okay? So we've got a frosted diffuser, and now it's taking this little 2mm chip and it's turning it into a 90mm light source, and it's right on the ceiling surface level as well. So that's why we're getting this. That's why we can't escape it. We can see it from all angles as well, and it's similar. The LED chip is working like the sun. The clouds are the same as that opal diffuser. Now, the differences between them, what I've just explained, is resulting in this one here, which you probably can't see on the camera, and then this one, which probably seems really, really bright on the camera. All right, it's even hurting my eyes looking into it now. So, where do these end up, and why do these end up in our projects and, you know, throughout the building industry? They are more cost effective, okay? But I don't think people should have to suffer with these in their apartment, with these in their workplace, all those kinds of situations just because we as an industry are caring enough about lighting. Now, I know that's a pretty harsh thing to say, but it does get left to the last thing a lot of the time. And if we aren't caring about it, this is what happens, okay? So we need to be better. We need to create comfortable environments for people in every single scenario. So if they've saved up and bought their first apartment, their living room, their bedroom should still be as comfortable as someone building a multi-million-dollar house. And that's we can achieve just through light, right? So what can glare actually do to us, apart from making us uncomfortable and have to squint, you know? It's the migraines, it's the headaches, it's visual fatigue, which can turn into actual, you know, fatigue by the end of the day when I was saying, you know, we're so tired towards the end of the day. A few of the things throughout the day. Distraction is a big one. Just having that kind of glare always like kind of annoying you, like some kind of picking at you in the corner all the entire day. That's how it can affect. It can affect how we relax. It also is going to affect how we work as well, which is really, really important. So now that I've got these two on, I'm probably just going to turn this one off because it's really annoying me. How do we measure this as a manufacturer, okay? So we have a rating. It's called the Unified Glare Rating, or UGR is what I'll refer to it from now on. Now it's just a guideline and it's just something that we apply to the fitting, and it's not the be all and end all, okay? You can still take a really low, you know, dark lighter like this with a UGR of 10, which is the lowest score that you'll actually get on a light fitting, and you can install it in a situation that can actually be uncomfortable for someone. So yes, as a manufacturer, we are giving a guide out there, as you see it on our data sheets and across our website, but it is only a guide between selecting from our products. We can only guarantee that we have tested them in a certain way, and that's how it's kind of going to go. So when you actually take that product and put it into a real kind of project, there's so many things that that kind of you have to take into consideration. The ceiling heights, where people are moving through the space, where people are spending long periods of time throughout this. What are your reflectances? So what color are the walls? What color is the ceiling? What color is the floor? All those things play a crucial role into how much glare there's actually going to be in the final stop. So the rating that we give it after that brief explanation, this one gets a 10, that is the lowest. The highest is a 25, and that's what the other light I showed you, the frosted face down light, actually achieves. So a UGR of less than 25 versus a UGR of less than 10. You might see other numbers out there like 13 or 16, 19, 22. They jump up in sets of 3, and that's what we as a manufacturer and all manufacturers actually provide. But yes, definitely just a guideline, okay? So what we're actually going to do is go downstairs and have a look at a real world example. We're going to look down in our marketing area. We're going to have a look at the office downstairs and what are some kind of tips and tricks that we can actually lay out to reduce the glare, to make people's work lives a lot more comfortable, okay? So let's go for a bit of a walk now. We probably will point out a couple of things that along the way, because we are walking through our showroom. This is Global HQ here in Perth. So as we're kind of walking, let's just have a look at some stuff around the place as well. So this is our whole kind of showroom level. So if you are in Perth or you are getting the opportunity to travel to Perth, this is what we kind of go through on our day and a half kind of tours as well. So we were just in the technical showroom. This is kind of the concept showroom that we're walking through at the moment here. And then we'll walk down the stairs and we'll head over to the office area. So I'll just open this curtain so Henry can walk through there. Also, being kind of HQ for Australia as well, all of our stock and things like that are out there. And this is kind of but also how natural light plays a role, because we've got a lot of glass and windows that's happening in this area. And we can actually see how both of them play a role in glare. Hopefully some people at this point can take this time to jot down a few questions and stuff like that as well, because remember, we will be spending the last 15 minutes of the video answering those questions. So hopefully you've got some good ones. I have been quite brief with explaining, and I can go into a lot more detail given a longer period of time, but let's leave it at that for now. So here we are, down in the office, and what I'm going to do is turn all these lights off, and we're going to start from scratch to try and create a comfortable environment, okay? So if I come through here, and we're going to turn all these lights off. Okay, so we're starting from scratch, right? It's quite a dark space. We obviously need some light. I've got all this glass over here, but I will talk about that in a sec. So we're going to focus on this desk right here, where Zach is sitting. This is going to be our kind of model, and we're going to start lighting from this desk here. So obviously we need some task lighting that's actually going to light the desk, you know, be compliant with the standards, all that kind of stuff. So let's turn that on. Now this is quite a low glare light fit. It gets on the score of UGR of 19, but I've kind of told you that doesn't really mean too much. Now we've lit this space, all right? But it kind of stands out quite a bit. We've got, you know, really dark verticals, really dark floor. We've got this beautiful white ceiling that's not lit either. So how do we then take, you know, this, and if this was just by itself, you know, some people like areas like this, but we need to add more layers in to reduce the contrast between the light source and the background. And that's another big one, especially because we've got a super bright computer screen, and now we have one super bright light sitting above that. So what can we add first? Well, we can obviously add the rest of the downlights in. Now, already we've seen that this wall over here, this vertical, has got a lot more light output on it. And it's kind of reduced kind of the standout of what's happening with this center light. So what can I do again? We can start adding more layers. So this would kind of be a typical way that the office would get left in kind of a pretty standard, if no one was really paying attention to the lighting and they were just looking to get kind of a tick from the standards and the calculations. So we're going to introduce the indirect lighting. So we have a really reflective kind of ceiling up here. It's all white, so we can bounce a lot of light back here. Now, reducing the contrast between what's above and below is also a big help as well. So now we've got all this lit up, it's getting better and better. Now we're not noticing that middle light as much as we were before. We're still looking at a computer screen, and if we do focus on the desk that I told you to focus on at the start, we still have this really dark wall at the back. So this computer screen is far brighter than what is behind. So it's another point of significant contrast. So as we kind of turn these lights on in the background, we've now eliminated that vertical. We've kind of reduced the contrast between the background and the computer screen, and then that person there can work more comfortably, all right? So that's just a way of kind of layering. Now, I know not everyone has lights that they can reflect off the ceiling, and I know not everyone has the opportunity to light all the walls, but it's really something to consider. How many layers can we get to make these environments as comfortable as possible, okay? So what we're going to do now is spin around, and we're just going to have a look at the engineering section now, and we're going to talk about how the natural light plays a role, okay? So you can see through this window, that is super glary right now, right? Now, if we had that same amount of glare coming through this window, then Val over here is going to be having a major contrast difference between his screen and the light coming through the window. So it's the complete opposite of what Zach was experiencing over there. His background was darker than his screen, and if these weren't here, Val's screen would be brighter, and the background would be brighter than the screen. So always think about shears, always think about matching the natural light to the same kind of levels as the internal light as well. And that's going to really make, you know, comfortable spaces while still being able to get a lot of glass, get a lot of natural light in, because natural light is super, super important, not only to the aesthetics of the space, but for the people actually occupying the space as well. So one thing I want to mention about these light fittings as well is, if we can get maybe a little bit of a close-up on one of these, is putting in things like this honeycomb diffuser. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to come up perfectly on the screen, and I'm kind of looking at it now and it doesn't look like it is, but You've maybe seen louvers before. You've maybe seen a prismatic diffuser before. These are all lens options that we can put on to actually reduce, taking it from that opal diffuser, like that cloudy day scenario that we were talking about, and actually breaking up the light so it's not as a big visual impact on our eyes. Great thing about the honeycomb versus the louver is that when we move around at 360 degrees, it actually stays quite similar. So that was my kind of short insight into glare. That's about 15 minutes. We do want to allow 15 minutes for questions as well. We're going to move over to a last little section where I can get a lot of natural light in and answer any questions that everyone might have. So let's walk along there. So hopefully everyone's enjoyed that kind of brief snapshot. Obviously, contact Unios if you want to know more, but hopefully we can get any information that you want to know out of this little bit of question time. So, do we have any questions over here? I'll just wait till I've got one up on the screen and I can have a little bit of a read. Can't see that too well. What factors in a space affect glare? Okay, so I've kind of gone through it a little bit in what I've been talking about today, but obviously the light fit itself, because we give that a glare rating, okay, so whether we give it a 10 or a 22, so that's probably one of them. The placement of the light, so not putting it in people's eye lines, not putting it in places where people are constantly, if they're staring at a screen, what's actually happening above that? What's happened to the side of their kind of standard field of view when they're in long periods in their tasks? What are the kind of colours and surfaces around the space? Are they super reflective or are they matte? What kind of colours? You know, dark colours absorb more light, white colours and light colours reflect more light. So that's kind of a big part of it. So yeah, I would say the fitting itself, then I would say the placement of the fitting in relation to where people are using the space, and then what is the space actually made out of and what's the colour palette of the space. So yeah, great question. Thank you for that. We've got another one as well. How do I determine if a light fixture is low glare or not? So that would be using the UGR, okay? Now, like I said, it's not the absolute be all and end all, right? It's not, you know, take it as complete gospel and then you put it on the project and it's automatically going to be awesome. But it is a good kind of benchmark. So whether or not you're looking at stuff around kind of UGR less than 10 or UGR less than 13, you can kind of safely make the assumption that if I do the right things and the right placement, it's going to be okay. And if I'm up around the 25 or the 22, it may cause me a bit of issues. Things like offices, for instance, they actually state that and education, they actually state that you can't put light fittings in that's over UGR less than 19. So they have to be that or under, otherwise they can't actually use the space because they know people are going to be in those spaces for a long period of time. People are trying to be productive in those areas as well, and it's going to cause a wide array of issues like we talked about before. Cool. Hopefully that answered that question for someone. And what's the next one? So how does natural light affect glare in the space? So that's what we kind of really talked about just then. So the sun is super, super bright, right? Like far brighter than anything that we can reproduce apart from, you know, chucking floodlights and stuff on the wall inside our office. So we need to really compensate for that. We need to work on our light levels internally, and then we want to, you know, use the glass, use the natural light. How does the sun kind of move around the building? How do we use shears when sun may be directly coming into windows? All those kinds of things. We want to try and match the experience of what's happening inside. We want to match the computer screens to outside and the artificial light that's happening inside. So I think that would be the way that I would go about it. I'm sure, you know, there's people far smarter than me, but that's how I would kind of answer that question. So cool. So that's pretty much all we've got for today, and all the questions that we had. So 3, short and sweet. Thank you so much. Oh, wait, I've got a hand up over there. We might have another question coming on. Give me 2 seconds. Last minute entry. It's coming. So I was going to say, yeah, make sure that you kind of keep these. These are going to be every month. They're probably around the second Wednesday of each month, and we're just nice and short, 30 minutes. All the recording will be available as well, and it's just going to be a great little kind of insight, and then being able to access this information throughout the year as well. So the last question I have is, as I go to read it off the laptop, is downlight in a bathroom, would you place it under vanity or behind, e.g. EQ comfort? So under the vanity, I'm assuming is kind of directly over the vanity, maybe? Under the vanity? So bathroom, what you want to do, it's a super technical topic, and I literally can talk about it for a couple of hours. But when it comes to bathroom vanity lighting, you want light coming from the wall onto your face, right? That is the best case scenario for bathroom lighting. So when people put their starlights or people put stuff directly over the top of the vanity, which I'm assuming this is potentially talking about, it actually will just cast shadow. So whether it's hitting your forehead and casting shadow over your cheeks, or hitting your nose and casting shadow over your mouth, that's what's going to happen every single time. So first step is having something on the wall or something reflect mirror and actually bouncing back onto your face is the best case scenario. So if we can't light from the wall and we do have to go up, we want to make sure we can actually angle the light into the mirror. So an EQ Comfort, for instance, that was out of that question, doesn't have any adjustability, so it would just come straight down. The beam angle is 60 degrees, might be able to get a bit of reflectance, but I would say you'd want something with a little bit more tilt that can throw it right into the mirror and then back onto your face. Because that mirror is so reflective, we might as well use it rather than casting the light directly onto our face. So hopefully that was, I think I answered that right. I was a little bit confused by the question, but hopefully I've answered it. And we've got another one as well. Just waiting for Brent to type. Is there a linear exclusion range that can offer a low glare solution? Yeah, so it depends on what kind of size. Now, I'm sure there are some out there from other manufacturers. I definitely know of a couple, but anytime you're introducing that dark light fascia model into a linear extrusion or the honeycomb, like we showed in our office space today, trying to diffuse the light other than having an opal frosted face diffuser. We just want to try and get rid of that cloudy, overcast day scenario. So anytime we can break the light up, is going to low glare, more low glare. Change the color of that kind of optic, that secondary optic that's sitting over the top, we're going to reduce it further. So you could have a white honeycomb, or you could have a black honeycomb. Black would be far superior to the white when it comes to glare control. Things like louver, that's in your large kind of, you know, big profile, like 100mm by 50mm kind of stuff. But in your smaller stuff, yeah, being able to introduce a secondary optic, like a honeycomb lens or a glare shield or something like that. So we have some in the LX. We don't, unfortunately, have any in our Glide or Eclipse series. And we've got one more question, so we're going to answer that. And then I will let everyone get back to their day. Thank you so much for with us for this first episode. Hopefully we'll continue to get better and better as we go. And we're going to get this last question now. How would you use a linear fitting in a home application? So depending on what type of linear fitting. So, I mean, you can really use it anywhere. It depends if we're talking about kind of a large scale suspended linear or recessed, or we're talking something that can go into cabinetry. Like it's all in the range of linear. So I'll try and hit a couple of the points. Indirect light with a small scale linear, like cabinetry and stuff like that, absolutely is things, right? Incorporating into the cabinetry, incorporating architecture anywhere we can. Linear is great for that. Whether it's in cobes in the ceiling, whether it's hidden shadow lines of walls, you know, all these folds in walls, all that kind of stuff. Linear is absolutely amazing. Great for cabinetry as well. If we move up to another style of linear, which is your bigger profile, I mean, everyone's seen it over kitchen benches, doors and things like that. But anytime we can get indirect linear into the architecture, So that's where the architects and the interior designers really will come into play, and actually allowing for this lighting to go in. So afterthought of like, okay, well, where can we put this? If it's already on the plans, then we're probably going to go ahead with it, right? So making these little nooks and crannies inside a home where you can hide linear in, especially in like showers and bathrooms and hidden under cabinetry, all those kinds of things. Adding that indirect soft glow is the best way to use linear in the home, I think. That's my opinion. I've just been given the call. That was officially the last question. Thank you very much for joining the first episode of Unios Insights Live, and I will see you next month.